Every December, that moment hits you. You put on a playlist, you're immediately home. It's the sound of chestnuts roasting, snow falling, that slightly scratchy record spinning, Bing Crosby, Nat King Cole, the Ronettes.
Yeah, that warm, slightly crackling sound that just feels eternal, untouchable.
Exactly.
It is the emotional scaffolding of Christmas, really. We're talking about the mid-century golden age of holiday music, so what, the 1940s through the 60s?
Right.
And these songs, they aren't just standards, they're deeply woven into our collective memory.
But that's the thing, isn't it? The list of those genuine standards feels, well, fixed. You hear the same rotation every single year.
You do.
So what if you could suddenly discover 77 new Christmas classics? Songs that sounded like they'd always existed, like some forgotten treasure you just unearthed.
And that is the core question that sparked this really ambitious project we're getting into today.
I'm so excited for this one.
Me too. Our source material explores TATANKA's project, Cloned Christmas Classics. And just for context, TATANKA is a generative audio studio. They focus specifically on stylistic resurrection.
Stylistic resurrection, I like that.
It's a great term. And their goal was monumental. Combine human intuition and AI creativity to produce a massive 4-hour library of original holiday music that is, and this is their quote, indistinguishable in sound and spirit from that golden age.
And the scale here is just, it's staggering. This wasn't a quick single or a little holiday EP.
Oh, not at all.
This project delivered 77 fully original tracks. That's over 4 hours of brand new, vintage-sounding music.
Right. It's a takeover, not just an addition. That abundance was, a core strategic decision. But before we get to the philosophy behind it, we have to unpack how they even set the stage for this.
You mean how they defined the musical language of a whole era?
Exactly.
Okay, let's break this down. The goal wasn't just making holiday music. It was creating an entirely original library that could stand shoulder to shoulder with the absolute classics.
Familiar, but completely fresh.
And the creators were explicit about this. This was positioned as a new tradition, not some tech experiment.
And this brings us right to the title, which is pretty provocative, Cloned Christmas Classics.
It is. It immediately makes you think of duplication, of copying.
Which is what we usually associate with generative AI, right? But the sources are so clear on this. Every single track is 100% original. No existing melody or lyric was copied.
So if the music is original, why call it cloned? What were they cloning?
The era. Not the song, but the conditions of creation, the textures of the studio, the whole emotional DNA of mid-century music.
I see. So to do that, the human collaborators had to basically map the entire musical grammar of that golden age.
Precisely. So the AI could be trained with absolute precision. And this is where it gets really useful for anyone looking at generative art. They didn't just tell the AI, write a jazzy song.
No, they broke the sound down into 6 specific clonable elements. It's like building a musical time machine. You need a really specific blueprint.
A very specific blueprint. The goal was to establish these constraints that would force the AI's output into the right nostalgic channel.
Okay, so that were the 6.
So they trained the AI to recreate 6 things. First, the orchestration, the specific palette and arrangement style of the big band and pop orchestra, sounds from that time.
Okay. Number 2 was the vocal delivery, that distinct sincerity, the crooning style, the clean harmonies of the era.
Yep. Third was the melodic architecture, so the fundamental structure of the melodies, their typical range and movement.
And then it gets deeper, more conceptual.
Right. Fourth, they focused on the storytelling style, the lyrical themes, memory, simple joy, spiritual calm, avoiding any kind of modern cynicism.
Fifth, the harmonic language. So the specific types of chords and progressions that really define that mid-century American songcraft.
And then number 6, this one is, I think, the absolute key to getting that nostalgic feel.
Let me guess. It's the recording quality itself.
You got it. The gentle, tape-saturated warmth of mid-century recording, what they called analog warmth.
Ah, so it's an engineering constraint, not just a musical one.
And that's the revelation here. The smaller the creative sandbox, the more authentic the result. By forcing the AI to build in the sonic decay and warmth of analog tape, they got rid of that sterile digital feeling that plagues so many retro-style projects.
So cloning the mastering process was just as important as cloning the composition style.
Absolutely. It ensures the tracks don't feel like a modern band trying to sound vintage. They genuinely sound like something you found on an unopened vinyl from 1961. It removes that barrier of newness.
Okay, so building on those 6 elements, They then created a set of strict creative rules. This is where the human hand really steered the ship.
Yeah, and the rules are fascinating. They show such a deep respect for the genre. They were defining the behavioral patterns of these classic songs.
So rule number 1 was about titles and lyrics. The titles couldn't be ironic or derivative. They had to be warm, evocative. Things like "The Smell of Evergreen in the Foyer."
Or "We'll Be Home by Midnight, Dear." Love that one.
Yeah. And the lyrics had to stick to that 1940s, 60s vocabulary. Snow, romance, caroling, memory.
A very specific, gentle, spiritual calm, no commercialism.
The second rule was about the vocal arrangement. To get that classic compilation album feel, they used alternating male and female lead vocalists across the whole library.
Which is brilliant. It makes it feel like a collection curated over years, not generated all at once.
And then, the detailed commitment to the orchestration.
Yeah.
This wasn't just use an orchestra. It was a very specific checklist of textures.
A checklist designed to deliver that unmistakable twinkle and resonance of the Golden Age. So you have strings, of course, but also vibraphone and celesta.
Which are essential for that delicate high-frequency chime.
Totally. Then you had to have brushed jazz drums, the upright bass for warmth, soft choir pads, and I love this detail, a specific rule that sleigh bells must always be gentle and supportive.
They can't dominate the mix.
Never.
That one tiny detail, the volume of sleigh bells,
Yeah.
what does that tell you about their commitment to authenticity?
It tells you they were hunting for emotional accuracy, not just technical novelty. They knew that the slightest anachronism, like a modern drum sound or an aggressive sway bell, would just pull you right out of the experience. The constraints guaranteed the feeling.
And speaking of feeling, let's go back to the scale. Why 77 tracks?
The simple answer they gave was, Christmas deserves abundance.
I like that.
They realized, if you make an hour-long album, you'll play it out pretty quickly. But a 4-hour library, that's vast enough to soundtrack the entire season without getting repetitive.
So it's not just songs. It's a sonic ecosystem for the whole month. For holiday parties, retail stores, long road trips.
Exactly. That massive scale supports the whole new tradition idea because it provides the deep well of music that classic artists built up organically over decades.
So if the rules were the human constraint, how did the work actually get divided up? Let's dive into that human-AI partnership.
This is the critical blueprint, I think, for future generative art. The roles were very sharply delineated. The AI role was purely the generative engine.
It created original compositions, but only within those super strict, human-defined boundaries we talked about.
It was given the grammar and just asked to write 77 original poems in that language.
Okay, and that feels like a key distinction. It addresses that big ethical concern, right?
Yeah.
The AI wasn't told to imitate specific artists or just copy a Sinatra song.
No, it was asked to inhabit the aesthetic vocabulary of the era.
But if the AI is that fluent, how do you keep it from just becoming high-level plagiarism?
You do that by emphasizing the human role. The human was always, as they put it, at the helm. Their job wasn't composing notes. It was emotional calibration, artistic direction, and most importantly, ruthless curation.
So the human team vetted every single output for originality, but also for sincerity.
For emotional sincerity, yeah. That's the difference between a machine churning out technically accurate songs and, actual art. The human provides the soul. The AI can channel the spirit of Ella Fitzgerald or Nat King Cole, but the human ensures the final product feels authentic, not like a hollow imitation.
The human is the artistic filter.
The AI has stylistic fluency, but the human decides which compositions truly earn the right to be called a classic.
So this whole collaboration really moves the conversation about AI art past simple imitation.
It does. It shows that by setting these incredibly specific nostalgic constraints, technology can serve as a really powerful creative assistant capable of delivering genuine emotional impact.
Which brings us right to the philosophy of realness.
Mm-hmm.
The success here isn't about the tech, it's about what listeners actually felt.
Exactly. The creators highlighted one listener reaction that just says it all. A machine made me cry. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And that proves that AI, when it's guided properly, can move beyond novelty and create genuine beauty that really resonates.
To explore this conflict between the tech and our very rigid view of tradition, the source material uses this powerful narrative about a man named Kofi and his family.
A great case study.
Kofi inherited this very strict musical tradition from his late father, who was the guardian of the correct Christmas playlist. So the holidays felt heavy, weighed down by repetition.
The ache of repetition, because nothing new was ever allowed in.
So Kofi decides to play the cloned Christmas Classics album for his family, but he doesn't tell them where it came from.
And it works. The music just feels classic and warm. It integrates perfectly. But inside, Kofi is struggling. He's thinking, is this cheating? Am I honoring the past or just replacing it?
That's the essential conflict, isn't it, for anyone using technology to recreate something sacred?
It is. And that conflict gets crystallized when his skeptical teenage son, Temba, finds out where the music came from.
He asks the perfect modern question.
So, a machine wrote this. And that doesn't make it less real.
That's the whole thing in a nutshell. Is it devalued because its origin is computational? We tie the value of art to the struggling human genius, the solitary composer.
This project challenges that notion head-on.
And the resolution, as it so often is in real life, is emotional, not intellectual. Kofi doesn't give him a philosophical answer, he just looks up.
And he sees his wife and kids spontaneously start dancing to one of the tracks, laughing, creating a new, joyful memory right there.
And that's the moment it clicks.
That moment validates the music. He realizes the value isn't determined by who or what made the notes, but by what the music does to the people listening. The experience grants the art its realness.
He concludes that music isn't about who made it. It's about what it does to us. It's real because it's part of this moment. The human experience provides the final stamp of authenticity.
And that realization underpins the project's main philosophical takeaways. First, these new songs are companions. They're here to expand the emotional landscape of the season, not replace the classics.
They prove the holiday canon isn't closed.
Exactly. Second, the idea that nostalgia is a foundation, not a prison. We can build new joy on the bedrock of the past without losing that warmth.
And finally, that tradition itself is a living thing. It's defined by what we're willing to let in.
Yeah. By welcoming something new, Kofi enriched his family's experience. He honored the spirit of the past, that feeling of home and warmth, without being trapped by its literal boundaries.
This deep dive into cloned Christmas classics has been pretty remarkable. It shows how strict human-defined rules can blend this cutting-edge tech with deeply felt nostalgia. It really seems like they achieved their goal.
They absolutely did. They expanded the holiday universe for people who love the classics, but, secretly desire fresh material that hits that same emotional mark.
Yeah.
And its success demonstrates a powerful principle for the future. Human intention can guide AI to resurrect the feeling of a past era with integrity and beauty. And that begs a final, provocative thought for you to consider.
Okay.
As this technology continues to merge with human artistry and we get better at defining these aesthetic grammars, what other lost archives from our cultural past in music, literature, art are just waiting for a human hand to guide an AI and fill in the blanks? What era are you ready to bring back?